And I never tell people what to do. That's one thing. Like my whole thing, really, when I break it down, Richard, I don't know somebody's avenue to that success level and stuff like that that they want to. I don't know what that is. I'm really good at helping them identify that through the vision, through the other tools I use, everything else and stuff like that. So I help them identify it. And then what we do is we start marching to those. And again, where I differ is because operate off of successes. We spend so much time. And when I was helping a company in bankruptcy, we 5 days a week, we'd get together for 2.5 hours every day and talk about the problems.
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I have Dr. Joseph Drolshagen with us today. And Joseph, I'm not going to repeat that last name again. I got it right the first time. Joseph, no one knows Joseph better than Joseph. So, Joseph, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed so we can tear into this conversation.
Absolutely. And I'll do this really quickly because I really want to get into to helping your audience walk away from this with some actionable steps they can take. So I'm Joseph Drolshagen. I'm a doctor of psychology. My major focus is on mindset, the conscious mind, subconscious. And I've become known over the past decade as the rapid revenue architect. And everything I do. Now, I grew up struggling in a very low income family in Detroit, Michigan, and that was shown to me over and over and over again. And then when I got into my adult years, even though I didn't want to, I repeated those same behaviors. And so at 22 years old, I had an opportunity to take over a company, which was a multi-million-dollar company. I didn't even have to invest into it, Richard. We were going to do it over a 6 or 7 year, revenue share with the individual who was selling it to me. And within 3 days that opportunity came up, when it came up, it was the biggest thing ever in my entire life at that time. 3 days later, I said, I can't do this. And couldn't even know, I didn't even really know why. It just felt not right, really strongly. And within a couple of weeks of there, I figured out the reason I couldn't accept that is because I didn't feel I deserved it because I didn't work hard enough for that opportunity. And that lit something inside of me thinking I was broken or something wrong with me. And I didn't relate it to how I was raised. I didn't know anything about programming and, all this different stuff. So I set out for 2 decades trying to find out what that is. In the meantime, I got into sales and building outside sales, building territories and such. And because the mentality I had was you got to work harder if you want to do better. Right. I mean, that's what I grew up hearing. And so I would travel 3,000 to 5,000 miles every single week trying to land, trying to build business. And I was barely scraping by. And I'm watching other people on the sales team who are taking off Fridays and going golfing, coming in Monday half day, and they were killing it. And I couldn't figure out why I was different than them. And as I started marching through this, I went through a lot of programs. I went through a lot of coaching and counseling and different things, trying to figure out what this was. And for a decade and a half, I nothing came of it. I would take these programs, I would invest it, I would put 100% of myself into it, and I'd walk away with more knowledge, but nothing changed in my results. And so then I came upon what I study now. I developed a method a little over a decade ago called the SMT method, which is named Subconscious Monetization Technology. And it's all about how the problems we face are never outside of ourselves. We look at state of the economy, competition, things like that. So as I started understanding this stuff at a deeper level, as I started experimenting with it and getting somebody to help me identify what was that thinking coming from internally within me and such. And so then I started noticing it. And within a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, I went from barely scraping by, always nervous about my job, whether I was going to get let go for not performing, things like that, to landing 18, 22, the largest $25 million year-over-year contracts for companies. And then from there, I got into leadership roles and I ended up working out in corporate up to a vice president of sales. And I didn't love all the tasks you have to do, but I really loved elevating a higher percentage of people from that middle of the pack in my sales departments to top producers. And I did that in two different organizations. And then I helped a company that got in bankruptcy. And that's every gray hair I have came from. It's such a hard life going through. For me, it was. And I just decided once we got new owners, I was going to walk away. And a little over a decade ago and I'd been building up to this, but a little over a decade ago is when I stepped out and I've gotten to work with hundreds of clients since then. And this isn't this isn't my motivator or my drive. This is my mission and my purpose in life. So getting to do this and help see business owners go from 7.5 to over $22 million in 12 months, or from a few hundred thousand to into the seven figures within a year, and elevating sales, still working with corporations, elevating sales personnel. Like it's like my lifeline. Like I so much love doing what I do and having these conversations like we get to have. So that I have one son that I absolutely adore that's 29 years old. And as of October, he gave me my first grandson. So,
There you go.
I mean, he
Awesome.
didn't, his girlfriend
Right.
did, but
Yeah, I still know how that actually works. Yeah. I've got six kids, so I know how it works.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's awesome. It's absolutely fantastic. I know we're going to dive into this, and we might even start off with this. When you talk about the subconscious mind, and here's
Mhm.
one of the reasons I'm interested. I learned about that 25, 26 years ago through a recommendation of a friend who told me, you need help. You need to go see this guy.
I
He's
think
going to
everybody
help
I've
you.
ever met has said that to me.
That's right. And he goes, see, like he's, hypnotherapy and all this stuff, but it was really about the unconscious mind or subconscious, I don't know how you call it, but he did. And holy cow, I went like 3 days a week for 2 years
Yeah.
in this stuff,
Wow. Yeah.
working this stuff. And I always tell people, if I didn't do that, I could have never gotten married.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it just, I mean, I had it, you could take that to sales or whatever, but mine was my issues. And so I have a huge appreciation for that kind of stuff and the ability of the power of the unconscious mind, what's going on back there. So I can't wait to dig into this. I love your focus on sales. I think sales is one of those areas that the majority of people in sales are horrible at it. Okay. For a lot of reasons. Okay. There's a lot of basic reasons. You're going to hit on a bunch was maybe holding them back. Most of them don't really care. They're kind of in the job, but it just, I'll give you this. What about, so if I'm a high achiever, okay, it's just who I am. Okay. So if it's sales or running my businesses or whatever it is, I'm looking to get better and grow things. Right now,
Yes.
there has to be that beginning willingness, correct? In
Mhm.
order to really make someone, even if you can deal in the unconscious mind and stuff like that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like where does that all begin? We heard where it began with you. What do you know when you're working with these clients? What's their kind of baseline?
Yeah. Before I get into that, I'd like to say something about that, the salespeople, because the biggest problem I find with people that are salespeople, a business owner is a salesperson. A lot
Exactly.
of them don't want to admit that to me because they hate sales, but they're a salesperson. And here's what the biggest problem I come across with people, and why what I do differs from almost everything else out there is we try to do sales through being programmed how to do sales. If we cut all that crap out of there and really just went about, growing our business because we want to grow our business and all the purpose, and in which we'll get into answering your question in a minute, all of that's, from that avenue, we all know how to
Right.
sell. We're all really good at it. We have personalities, but what it is what we're doing is we're trying to move away from who we are to become somebody who's a good salesperson. And I did that for years. It never works because we can only fake it for so long. So what I do is help people to come from their genuine interest in building what they want to build. Then sales becomes easy.
Right.
because it's just part of the process. So to go into your question, what I find most business owners I meet that have hit some sort of ceiling that they can't seem to break through, one of two things happen. They either look at the outside conditions, like state of the economy, the competition. Realtors. One of the big ones I heard for a couple of years was there's not enough inventory and things like that. But those are never true. Those never stop. Not that they're not true, but they never stop us. And the evidence I have for that is how many people do we know that take their greatest strides during down economies?
Mm-hmm.
And then how many people do we know that are struggling even during boom times? It's never the outside structure. It's always the internal, and it's in that programming, which I'll get into for a minute. So one of the first things I have to do, because business owners who are struggling, who hit a ceiling, and effort and strategy aren't working. But so what do? We're conditioned to put more into it, to work more hours, to push harder, to come up with more strategies, and it's endless. And I've seen a lot of companies that I didn't have an opportunity to work with that have closed their doors because of that. And it just gets to be the point where you forget why you even started doing the business you have, and so the joy and everything else is gone. And so one of the first things I have to do when I get a business owner, and the way I qualify business owners, if it's somebody I can help or not, is do they have an open mind? If I'm giving a talk and I'm sharing with people, you know, true statistics or events that happen, like taking a company in 12 months from 7.5 toppling over $22 million and now maintaining that for the last 7 years, they'll go, that's BS. That's impossible. There's nothing I can do for that person.
Right.
So they got to have what I call a beginner mindset. And the way I define that, we all know a lot of things, Richard. A beginner mindset will look at something and say, what can I take from this and add to what I already know? And so with that, that's a beginner mindset. And the first thing I typically have to do is I have to get them to throttle back a little bit because they're going at it so hard with the effort and hours and all of that stuff. And they, wake up in the middle of the night with the anxiety and all that pain. And I know that firsthand because I've been there and I was there for quite a long time, in my life. And so what it is we come out of the gate developing what's considered a dynamic vision. It's, we so often lean on goals and, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, whatever goals and things like that. And those are great, but we have no clarity in that. The way I do this through the SMT method is we get a lot of clarity in what does that look like? What does that growth 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is, what does it look like? What's your business at? And how does that look? How's your team look? How's your environment look? How, but then also like, how does that feel to be operating that business at that level? How do you wake up in the morning? How do you spend your days? So we get a lot of clarity on that vision. All of that makes sense?
Yes.
And then the rest of the process, now the SMT method is geared to bump up against those patterns and limiting beliefs that are holding us back. And this isn't foo-foo stuff. It's not, not that I think like vision boards and affirmations are foo-foo and stuff like that, but this is much more immediate and impactful as we do it. Because what we do is once we identify those limiting beliefs within the subconscious, that limiting programming, and the programming is our patterns, our paradigms, our belief systems, experiences we've had, even experiences we haven't had, but somebody shares with us similar, which we'll probably get into going a little deeper into explaining that. And so what it is we bump up against those things, and then we have the tools within the SMT to very quickly shift those. And as we shift them, we automatically open up greater opportunity. Because here's how it works. The subconscious programming, the key importance thing of it is that is what triggers the brain waves to the actions we take or we don't take. So at 22 years old, it would not trigger the brain waves within me to say yes to that opportunity and what life could have looked like that way because of what was in that programming that you got to work your butt off to get ahead. And if you want something, you got to trade off the rest of your life to get it, and all those things that, and that didn't fit in that category. So my brain literally would not, my subconscious would not trigger my brain to take those actions that would have led to that. Instead, it led to actions that continued that truth being so: struggle, hardship, pain, anxiety, all of those things, because that's what was built into that programming. And we don't get to choose the programming we have. We can adjust it, and this is tied in with the method, by our conscious mind and the things we focus on, whether we watch CNN constant negative news all the time, and all of that stuff. I just read something last week where Socrates had written, and he said, great men talk about ideas. Average men talk about events, and below average men talk about people. And I had forgotten that, and it's been amazing this last week. It's helped me sharpen up a little bit with, the things I talk about. But oh my God, there is so many people around me that talk about mostly people and then some events. It's rare to talk about ideas.
Yeah, I had a guest on yesterday on my podcast, and we were talking about just that. I said, I will get with the big idea person, right? And I love it. We're going deep and we're coming up with stuff. But I said, but here's the problem and the difference between that person and me. As I'm evolving through these ideas, and we're going back and forth, I take it and I go apply it. He just thinks about another thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not going anywhere. I said, you have all this intelligence, this capability to go out way further than the average person. I said, but you're not doing anything with it. It's reading a book and putting it back on the shelf and not doing anything with the book. Right. You have to, I love those deep conversations. Right. But
Yes.
I have to apply them in some way. I can't just retain knowledge, and you're just a talking head.
Yeah.
You're not making a difference anywhere.
And what's funny is, what do you think stops that? Because they want what comes with that, right? So what do you think stops them?
That's it. That you're going to tell us.
It's the subconscious programming.
Exactly.
Remember, it triggers the brainwaves. But also, here's what happens. We all know now 85 to 95% of the results we experience in our life are coming from that programming in the subconscious. So that programming in our subconscious sets up our perceptions of how we see the world, how we see ourselves in the world. And our perceptions are what determine our results. So now when I say that about quickly shifting those, that programming, it immediately shifts our perceptions of how we see ourselves in the world, which then equal greater results that we experience.
It's so fascinating, Joseph, because first, just being able to do that, right? Understanding that. And I learned that too. Like we are laden with this programming that you have. It's and it's not necessarily hardwired. It's through exposure. So it's really more software than it is hardware, right? Because
yes.
it probably crosses over a bit, but you get the idea.
It does, but yes.
It's programmable, right? Yes. So I think about that often, like all the things I had with my first business 20 years. It was like, I didn't understand that, but I kept raising my prices just because someone told me to. Okay. I wasn't worthy of these prices, I felt, right? But I kept going. What I built was what no one else could build. No one ever told me I charged too much, ever, no matter what. 200% margins, 300%. And I'm like, okay, this is really good. But I never understood what took me so long to get to that point. I kind of knew, and I've heard limiting beliefs and all stuff. I'm like, what? That's just, to me, was like, I don't get it. I'm like you. I was like, I didn't earn it. I'm not good enough yet. I kind of had that whole thing in there, and so and I see that in a lot of my clients as well, like trying to take them through those things. There's a lot of self-sabotage, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I can't do that.
Right.
I've let a lot of clients go, like you said, because they can't do it. I go, I just saved you $250,000 in about 1 minute and 37 seconds, and you don't want to take action on it. The simplest you could do. I go, I can't help a person like that. You're crying about debt and everything else. What do you want me to do for you? I don't know. I had to move on.
Well, and that's why what I do, because those people believe that with all their heart and all their soul, they can't. and they really can't and will never be able to. And here's why what I do is really important, because I could not pick out my own limitations in my programming by myself,
Right.
because it feels so natural to live that way. It's our truth of our life. So what happens is I had to get somebody who could help me identify this is what's happening there. And I am very much about rapid growth. I don't like to play around with a little here, a little, like, that I would get bored and not be doing this. I love rapid growth. I love sparking into things where people are like, oh, damn, I didn't even realize I do that.
Right.
But that's what's causing the limitation. And one of the things I was talking about with the dynamic vision, the importance of that. So here's the thing with it. The gentleman you're talking about, he knows what he wants, but he won't take those actions.
Right.
Something stops him. It's not him. I imagine he's not a lazy person. It's not that we stop ourselves from doing it. It's that our subconscious programming isn't triggering those brain waves that allows us to take those actions to lead to that. So you look at, I'm going to say sales, it works the same thing for business owners. But you look at salespeople, right? A company decides to build a sales team and they hire all these people for sales, 5 people, let's say. And then they bring them into a room and bring a trainer in. And they walk out of that room. Everybody's making 10 calls a day. Everybody has a script on what they're going to say. Everybody, and it's all robotics. It's all training to be something other than who you are. So with what I do, it was because I've experienced so many of those in so many different areas. It was so important. If I'm going to do this, it has to be unique to the individual. It has to be unique to the business owner I'm working with, the corporate salesperson I'm working with. And I'll tell, like, if a corporate hires me, like a vice president of sales hires me to come in and work with some of his people, I'll tell him right then, don't look at their actions. Focus on their results, because not two of them are going to have the same actions they take or
Right.
the same way. There's some people who can't stand cold calling and that 10,000 pound phone. So we find avenues of doing things like that, like with realtors I've worked with, or business owners even, where we find other avenues to do that, but we find avenues that fit for them. So, and that's what I was saying early on with this, Richard. Say we all have salesmen in us. If we've
Yep.
ever had a boyfriend or girlfriend, if we've ever had, our parents even, we negotiated. We
Yep.
negotiated to stay out later or spend the night or whatever it is, and with girlfriend and stuff like that. So we all know how to do that, but what happens is we do it professional and we go into it going, I don't know how to do this, so I need to learn how. When it's BS, what we need to do is have somebody who can help us tap into that internal and bring it outward.
Let me ask you a question on that because I'm in total agreement with that. Right. I love that. I think in my business too, I can sell because it's my
Yeah,
business. And I just go
yeah,
and paint the picture and do the whole thing and close the deal and everything else. Now,
yep.
but I get it. Now we're going to find the thing that they want to do, how they're going to get their leads or follow up on leads, whatever that individual thing is. Are you still finding there's some technique involved, whether that's asking for the sale or whatever that might be? Are you still kind of blending? It's just not, hey, do whatever you want and you'll get a sale. There has to be a combination, right? Where first it's their technique, if you will, or their lane, the lane that they sell best in, okay, for themselves. But then what about the actual, the levers and the processes and things like
there
that?
there is a process to the sales cycle, right? And it differs depending on what you're selling and how long, and
Mhm.
like things like that and stuff. But yeah, absolutely. And what it is, but once you can explain that to any salesperson, you can
Right,
explain that to a non-salesperson to understand it, but to know it doesn't mean anything.
right,
To know how you authentically go about that is the importance of connection between success and failure.
right, right. Yeah, that
A biz, a,
I just want people to hear this, okay? Because I don't want them to think they're compartmentalized, okay?
right.
Because they're not. Again, people have all kinds of tools and they don't know how to use them, okay?
Yes.
And they lay them out. Here's how this guy did everything. Well, you're not that guy. That's why I always tell people, you're not me.
Yeah.
I built a process just recently. I was talking to an investor and he said, well, they need you on your expertise on floor. I go, no, they don't. I didn't build this for that. I didn't. I don't want to be dependent on me.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I'm not trying to be dependent on. So, and he said, oh, and I told him how and everything else. It's very unique, right? So we find these ways to empower the people or the process to do
Yeah.
the work, right? That's kind of what it comes down to.
It does. And I'd be a liar if I didn't say there's still a part of me that loves that building. Like I had a artificial turf come to me a couple years ago now, and they were coming into the United States, had a really good product and such. And so I helped them get started and built within a couple few months, built 20 some, you know, uh, places that would be selling, distributors, things like that, that would be selling their products and stuff like that. And like, there's something about me that loves doing that chase of it and everything and stuff. So, and I have been really good. I've had a lot of companies bring me in when they're, organizations that bring me in the sales position to help build that back up. And it's just using God's gifts that he gave me, but
Yeah.
but you're right. Going out and doing it all the time is good to a certain revenue level.
Exactly.
After that, you need to be able to help other people do that. And that's really where I specialize.
Right. And well, also along the same revenue level, we're all going to have ceilings at one time or another. Mine might
And
be,
multiple times, depending on the size of the business. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Or I'm the 150K guy. I can close those
Yeah.
deals. I can't
Yeah.
do 750. I
Yeah.
can't do, you know what I mean? Because my own limitations, right?
Yeah.
My ceilings are low. So I think there's always kind of this swing back around, rev this up. I got to go next level because it's, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems when I talk to people, whatever it may be, let's say they're making $40,000 a year. Okay.
Mhm.
That's what they know. I say, hey, I got a position. I know you're going to be great for this. I said, you'll be making 200K a year. They won't do it. To your point, they're like, I'm 40, 200. There's no way.
Yeah.
They can't even conceive that kind of, I mean, it sounds good,
I experienced that myself.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit because
Yeah.
people,
When I
it's
was
these
building,
leaps. It's the
yeah, when I
leaps
was
that get people.
building sales territories, and once I got to the point of getting into the millions and multi-millions and things like that and stuff, like all of a sudden it wasn't an ego thing,
Right.
but I just knew I would know what to do. That had the confidence built up to doing that. And so a company wanted to hire me, and I'd go in there and they'd ask for more money than they were offering. I'd explain why and stuff, and a lot of times I'd get closer to that than what they were offering and things like that. So, and I would go in there and I would just do that, and it was fun. After a while, it became kind of burned out. But when I did that with that $25 million, it took a $50 million organization overnight to a $75 million organization with that sale. And so with that. You do really good in sales, and then they put you in a leadership position with it.
Yeah.
And when they gave me first time I like got a director of sales title, and then later on VP, but the director of sales title, man, I was like, that's not me. That's not, because
Yeah.
there was still something inside of me that saw back where I came from, you know, and
Well, also, but that's not sales anymore. You're the
it
director of sales. You're a
yeah.
VP of sales. You're actually not out closing deals. You're not chasing. You're not hunting anymore. You're managing. Isn't it kind
Yeah,
of
kind
different?
of, but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't totally
I,
separate from that side, which is
maybe
probably
you
why it was.
didn't, right?
But yes, I know what you're saying. Now, one thing, we are all salespeople in every area of our life. We just don't recognize it as such. So, but yeah, I know what you're saying, and you're right. So now, what I'm selling is building up my sales personnel to succeed, like you talked about.
Yeah.
So I was doing it in that way, but I also would go out and develop with my guys new business and come up with ideas on who we should, which is part of a VP, right? You're steering the ship for future.
Well, I tell people too, Joseph, that hiring is sales. When
It
you're hiring
is.
people, you have to sell the position.
And,
Otherwise, they're not
and
coming on board, right? You literally have to why do you want to work here? Well, here, I'll tell you. I'm going to sell
well,
you
and
on
I
my
would
my
say
results.
I would say in my hiring, because that's one of the things I do. Once a company starts scaling, then I have tools to help them make sure they're bringing the right candidates in right away and not throwing things up against the wall and seeing what sticks type of a mentality.
Right.
But with that, I would say it's probably uh 35, 35% sales, and the rest is qualifying.
Right.
You're
Right.
qualifying that candidate for the position. Now, there's still companies out there who qualify trying to push the person away and they got to fight their way in. And then there's a way of qualifying candidates to help them be successful in this process to get on board and get going and things like that. So it's how we do that really depends. But yeah.
Well, I think, that recruiting of the right salesperson.
Mhm.
Okay, you got to have your goals. If I'm selling high ticket items,
Yeah.
hey, you close this, your commission's 35 grand. Okay. And again and again and again and recurring, you have all this stuff. Like it's like finding that person because everyone's going to say they want that. Okay. But majority, 9.3 of 10, will not be able to perform. Okay. So like, that's the whole thing, right? It's having someone with a level of expertise like you do to see that because I have not figured out how to find the right person other than
Yeah.
the trial and error. I mean, I'm pretty good. I got a lot of discernment. I can talk to people. I see things. I have them demonstrate. I do a lot of things that are good, but I'm getting
Mhm.
to a point where it's like, okay, I don't know the right pond to fish in. Okay. I'm not pulling the right stuff out into the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, something's wrong here. I think I
Yeah.
got to change ponds. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. The only time I've ever had an upset with that, with helping build teams, because I use assessment type of things and stuff like that to determine this is the right person. Not only do they fit into the position, they fit within the company culture, they fit within to the, knowing, following rankings and things like that, as far as direction and things like that, and not know it alls about everything and things like that. And the only time I did that is I worked with a guy and we ended up coming up with 5 candidates and I can even rank them, which is your number 1 through 3, 4, and 5, and so we identified the first, all 5, and so we had the top one, which he put a call in to make an offer, and the second one he did that too, and I don't know why, but he did the fifth guy, he did all 5 of them, so the fifth guy was the first guy to respond, and he instantly hired the guy,
Hmm.
and the guy didn't work out. But I went back to the assessment and I go, well, let me ask you this. Is he this? Is he this? And he goes, yeah, 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 yeah. That's why I had to let him go. Well, you had that information. Why didn't you look at it? It was the kind of thing if we had tied tighter together like I normally, that was a consulting role. It wasn't somebody I was,
Right.
so, if you'd have stuck to that, the process, it would have worked, but you didn't. So he ended up getting hiring the top 1 or 2 people on there and stuff, and everything worked out. But he was pretty upset for a little while at me because he just flew off the, fence and decided just to pull the trigger on something.
Yeah, I think, and it goes for not just sales, but all employee hires, the whole fog and mirror thing. I've been at it all. I've seen where they just want bodies. And I'm like, I can't work with a place like that. I
Yeah,
went
me
into one
neither.
place large and they had 50 people on the team. In 3 weeks, I got rid of 25 of them.
Yeah,
Okay. And we went to number 1 in the country. Okay.
yeah,
The guys they tripled their income, the
mhm,
remaining 25, because we got rid of the dead weight,
yeah,
and we created the systems and things like that. It's
yep.
just, I think too many people, and that's why I love talking to you, Joseph, is too many people they're putting the limits on their own people. You know what I mean? They're
They
hiring,
do. They do.
they don't think they can do this, or this, right? And
Yes.
people want to be challenged. They
Yeah.
want to do more. They want to succeed at things. They want to know what that looks like. And I think if you have to have that mindset, that culture in your company, because that will attract top performers. They don't want low ceilings.
And
Okay.
develop top performers.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You have a culture of that. Like you said, you're going to bring them up. I'm really big on that stuff. I even do it on
I
the
remember
factory.
one of the things that it was a blessing the way it worked out for me is I was doing outside sales. The company was in one state, I was on the other side of the country from him and things like that. And the CEO, when he hired me, he said, "This is your business. This whole region here, everything east of Indiana, across to Europe, and from Canada down to Florida, that's your business. We're here to support you." And so I believed him in that and I acted as such. And that's the only reason why that was the first I think it was the first territory that I had that I just blew everybody else in sales. And not that I'm competitive like that. I want everybody to win and stuff, but like I just went from starting out and just flew to the top and stuff, just doing the things I do and stuff, and that taught me like how it's sale. I've learned there's three types of salesperson people. There's the top producers that just have that in them, or you help them find that and they just go, man, and make it happen. And then there's the people that need some mentoring, direction, some hand holding, things like. And then there's the people that you got to kind of push into making a mark, you know. And so I identify that with the people I work with, and I've worked successful and helped all three people in all three of those categories and stuff.
So so I'm gonna go with number three. Okay, they need to push. Is there a shorter cutoff point with them? You have to see some kind of initial progress. If they're taking, that's a lot of additional energy. So you're almost saying an A, B, and C player.
Yeah.
Okay, and your C player is, I mean, you can devote a certain amount of time, I would imagine. This is my own process here, thought process. Yeah. And then, but if I don't see that spark, if I don't see the willingness, they got to go.
If that person is just settled in there and that's home and they got their hands up and their feet up and the recliner pulled back and stuff like that, there's nothing you can do for that person.
Right.
And that's why when everything I talk about, even with the three, I qualify people so I know who they are and stuff. Right. And here's the thing: so bringing this back to business owners and more to your audience and things like that, we hit those ceilings, and it feels like something has us stuck. And so the programming will lead us back to looking at why we're stuck. The victimhood, which we all have to some level. I don't mean that as a derogatory, because we all have that. We'll look at state of the economy. They'll look at this. They'll look at that. I had a business owner one time. He wanted me to work with all 5 of his guys, and so I had a conversation with him. And he's telling me why they can't grow and this and that and everything else, and what a terrible market and politics and all these other areas and everything else and stuff like that. And I go, and that would have been really, really good money for me to work with those people. But I never even met them because I told him I won't work with your people, but I'll work with you because you're your problem with your staff. And he got really ticked off and ended up hanging up on me. But that's the truth, though.
I had the same conversation yesterday. I go, it starts at the top. Usually that's the big, but I've also told people, I go, so that's a hard conversation as the first conversation. Okay, but you're the problem. So what I've done too, Joseph, I'll fix some things. I'll fix things on the floor. I'll do this. I gain a little trust, but I know where I'm going though.
Yes. Okay. I understand. I do it that way too.
These are my easy wins down here. Yeah. I'm coming for you. Yeah. I'm just not doing it out of the chute. Okay. You're gonna see me making it go, okay. I go, well, let's have a little conversation. I can get these guys this far, but you know why we're not going to get the rest of the way? Well, sit down. I'll tell you. Okay.
Yeah. So the ideal client for me, Richard, is somebody who says the bottom line, I really don't know why it's like this. I really don't know why things are like they are. Because the reason I did that, and it's the only time I ever did that in the past decade I've been doing this, with that one gentleman who happened to be Joe. I always say that I've never met a bad Joe, but but the reason I did that there is because he was so arrogant and he was so locked in, he wouldn't see anything different. So being at the top, his people are always going to have that negative pull against him. And I didn't want to compete with that.
Yep. Yeah, I had a guy like that too. And he's wanting my coaching. He's literally standing at my office door, like asking me all the questions. I'm telling him this and this and this. And he's just debating me every time why that's wrong. And look at him, I said, all right, man, you're good to go. You don't need me. You're uncoachable. I said, why are you asking questions if you got it all figured out? I said, I knew a guy like that, and he did it for 20 years like that. His name was Richard Walsh. Okay. I knew everything. I had billionaires giving me advice, and I wasn't taking it because I was a stinking genius. Okay. We ended up losing everything. So it's like, so that guy, you just look at and go, okay, you just now don't come taking anymore. Okay. You just go figure it out, but you'll need someone else. But there are those people that you can't, it takes a level of humility. Okay, to break through those ceilings. Yeah. Okay, you really have to and have an outside eyes, a coach like you, someone like me, come in and just go tell me. I have a client who's the most coachable client I've ever worked with. Yeah. And we've grown multiple businesses and just the revenue, everything. Because every week I tell them what to do. I say, hey, let's, how
Yes.
about this? They'll ask, okay. And we get a call next week, and guess what? He did it
Yes.
week
Yeah.
after week for 5 years. Okay. How do you not succeed? He succeeded huge and continues to do so because he
Yeah.
has the mindset.
And I never tell people what to do. That's one thing. Like my whole thing, really, when I break it down, Richard, I don't know somebody's avenue to that success level and stuff like that that they want to, I don't know what that is. I'm really good at helping them identify that through the vision, through the other tools I use, everything else and stuff like that. So I help them identify it. And then what we do is we start marching to those. And again, where I differ is because operate off of successes. We spend so much time. And when I was helping a company in bankruptcy, we 5 days a week, we'd get together for 2.5 hours every day and talk about the problems. And I got the nickname Mr. Over Optimistic because I would ask continually, is there one thing going good? And eventually that somebody spoke up because they were tired of me saying it, and they led to something that helped across the entire organization to cut their scrap from 40-50% down into single digits by
Yep.
doing that. But they still call me Mr. Over Optimistic and stuff, but I didn't care, and it's the same thing with business. Is it's really nothing ever gets in our way. There really is no ceiling to it. It's just what we're experiencing is coming from that conditioning, which leads to our perceptions, which lead to our results. So if we can identify quickly what that is and then quickly shift that, now all of a sudden we start changing that perception and opening up the door to greater results for our efforts. And so not only in the, I talk about that 7.5 to $22 million in 12 months. That year of growth was the only first year of her adult life where she took 5 weeks of vacation during that year of growth. So it actually, as we get into alignment and get that vision going and everything else, and start working off successes, which build more successes, and doing so, we start achieving greater results with less effort. And I've proven that over and over and over with hundreds of clients that I've worked with.
Well, I think it's like I talk to people often about this too. There's growth and there's scale. I said there are two different things. Growth is expensive. Okay. That's putting things in place and building and creating and innovating and hiring all that. Scale is like everything's duplicatable. Now I can move on. I
Right.
can I can do things bigger. So a lot of people don't understand there's a difference, right? What you've done is you've enabled people to get past growth into scale, right? Because
Yes.
you've
Yes.
unleashed all that stuff, got them out of all that struggle, and now they can scale. That's really cool.
Yeah. And growing up in Detroit, and playing hockey and then coaching hockey when my son was born and stuff, like I always loved looking at the hockey stick because that's the kind of growth we can achieve unless we know we can't. That's the only thing that will stop us.
Right. Well, yeah, it's that old Henry Ford saying, right? Whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
He's
And
such
then
a smart
I'm that
man.
way too. I'm a builder, right? I'm a builder innovator. If you look at kind of, that I can innovate things, but I
Yeah.
also like to build the businesses. I'm like you. I get a lot of excitement out
Yeah.
of creating it, building it, taking it, and I'm like you too. I want to unleash the capabilities, right? I
Yes.
want people to be able to do as much as they possibly can do. And how can you
Yes.
how can you enable them to do that? They don't need to be pulled into it. They just need a
Right.
little nudge to direct them back and forth onto
Yes.
the line that you want to go, right? Because no, nothing goes in a straight line. Go a little
Yeah.
left, little right, but
Right.
you're navigating. But if you're that one that's just gotta, hey, remember where we're going. So we just back and forth. That's how
Yep.
radar works. It
Yeah.
pings off this, pings off that. It keeps
Right.
going back and forth, and
Yep.
keeps putting you back online. So, if you have that mindset and you're bringing that in, and I find this too. I'd love you to kind of touch on this, Joseph. Is people you have to do this company wide, top to bottom. Okay, so you can't say, well, I deal with the C-suite and I get these guys. Once they're thinking right, everybody else will be fine. I'm like, that is such a fallacy. I said you have to enable everybody. Everyone has a level, right?
Hmm.
They have a position in the company. What we do when we do our like what we call strategic vision is how are they the hero and they're part of the journey,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like what are you doing to like let them know they matter,
Yeah.
Okay. Again, this isn't foo-foo. I'm talking like legit, without you here, none of this happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You matter.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
then
And
also give
go
them that
ahead.
chance to expand, right? How can they
Yeah.
become better as people, as
Yeah.
their competency and everything else?
Yeah, yeah, but and again, before I speak on that, because you didn't let me
Yes, sir.
at the end of
I
the
get
last one,
rolling.
so but I got to go back, and I know your audience, and I really want to give them because typically my ideal client is between a few $100,000 up to $3 million. After that, you start getting into all the bureaucracy and
Right.
more of the bureaucracy. Now I've worked with companies that is close to 5 million and stuff like that, but that's kind of like my wheelhouse there, and it's really about because what you were talking about before is when you we are so programmed with things like if you want something, go find someone who has what you want and do what they did. Right. So we hear these programs that say, we have your roadmap to success. And they're all based on, like, I love when I see social media things like that because I think to myself, you have no idea who I even am. How can you have a roadmap that's going to help me succeed? Because even in those processes and programs or whatever you want to call it, they don't get into the eons of the authentic person who experienced that, who put it together. And that's what I've done differently with the SMT method is it's there's a model. A lot of programs you go into, there's a locked model that you follow, right? We have your roadmap. Here's the roadmap. And you come into it like this, then you have to shift who you are to fit that model. And somebody comes in this way and they have to, and we're continually shifting, trying to fit into what we want, do what somebody else did and everything else. When I developed the SMT method, it was really important about the uniqueness of the individuals I'm going to work with. And so in doing so, there is a model, but the model shifts to the individual. The model shifts to the individual when we're building the vision because I don't tell them. I give them some tools to help them identify what they want, but it's their vision. As we step further, when we start developing systems of accelerating habits, as I mentioned earlier, I said we'll talk about again, is it's systems of accelerating habits based on that individual, based on what they're good at, based on what lights them up, based on things they enjoy doing, things like, and a great example of this, Richard, is social media lives. You ever seen a social media live and you can tell that person is uncomfortable being there and
Right.
kind of stumbling and stuttering a little bit and stuff? Like, how long do you watch that for? Not very
Not
long. I
long.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad for the person.
Yeah.
And so they're actually bringing negative like results into what they're trying to achieve. And then you see somebody who's out there and they're home. Put a camera on in front of them and they're home, man. They love being there and they go on and they talk and they're clear and concise, and all of that. So what I do is help people to if you don't do well at social media lives, stop it. You don't have to do that because you went through a
Right.
program and they told you have to do social media live. If you're cold calling, the same thing we talked about there. If you get on the phone, you're stumbling, stop. That's not your bailiwick right there, and it's
That's right.
okay. Let's find out what is. And so it's all about finding out from the individuals their unique pathway is what I
Well,
specialize in.
yeah, I think it comes down to identity. You know,
It
be,
comes down to
Mhm.
finding out more about ourselves.
Right. That's identity. It's
Yeah.
like who,
Yeah.
who are you actually? And
Yes.
your great examples are things like, well, you have to be on social media. Guess I'm not on social media. There's none on my phone. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't go on it. I don't care. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't like it. It's all a bunch of fraud. It's all a bunch of pretenders, a bunch of goose. Now, not I say all in the general sense, right? I get it, but that's not my wheelhouse. I've
Yeah.
tried. I'm like, I don't want. I go in and talk to people. I'll walk on a factory floor and talk to people.
Yeah.
And I have a whole different process. You know how I do things.
Yes.
I'm a results guy. Okay, I want to get that. I don't want to play.
So
Look at
yeah,
me, listen to me, all that stuff. Like
and
you
it's
can.
it's all based on our opinions, right? Because you say that, and that's your truth, and I don't debate that at all. For me, I have somebody that does my social media because I don't like doing posts or the lives. I'd rather do a workshop or things like that. So, but I do go on social media every morning, and I go on there and I get prayers and I get things that the positivity side of social media and everything else I just trash and don't pay attention, and ignore.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a positive avenue when I do, but I don't spend my whole day on there and such.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I'm
But
saying, like for me, again, I have morning rituals. I do certain things. I do
yeah,
Bible study in the morning. I'm in things that I do every day. But I have discovered with me running the company, building a new company, that
mhm,
that doesn't have a place in
yeah,
my schedule.
and that
You
makes
know,
sense. And there's
yeah,
days it doesn't for me either. Yeah,
that's right, and it's all good. Believe me,
yeah, yeah.
they're
But for
tools.
business,
Okay,
like going back to what we started at, because I know we're coming somewhat close, is for business owners that are stalled, and applying more effort and more strategy and more changes and thinking you got to hire people to do it and everything else. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But it's not. We can't effort or strategize our way into achieving something that we don't have clarity on first and foremost. There's so many business owners I talk to, and they'll go, I want to get my business to $50 million, say. And I go, okay, why? Was it, well, I just want to have that money. Or some people will say, because I want to have enough damn money coming from my business that I don't have to worry. So in other words, what they're trying to do is overcome their fear of scarcity by developing, and that doesn't work that way. So we get purpose, we get intent, we get the mission and all of that in doing so. Now all of a sudden it lights up a whole different charge.
yeah, I tell people often. I was on a podcast yesterday saying, listen, you can't do, and this is about revenue, right? You want 50 million, 100 million. I want, that's their only scorecard. I said, you can't do one thing to fix all things.
Yeah.
So trying to just, you get that number, go ahead, put your mind to it. You'll get to 100, you'll get to 500 million, whatever you want. You'll get there, but you're going to be really disappointed when you arrive
I have
because
a
you can't do it all. And then
I have a
you're going to
really good
sacrifice stuff.
example of a friend of mine I grew up with and he grew up similar to how I did, and he decided he wasn't going to spend his life like that. So he went through all his education and everything up to his doctorate degree and stuff from major universities and everything. He got into the pharmaceuticals and rose to the top levels in pharmaceuticals and was a multimillionaire at probably 45 years old. He passed away at 61
Mm.
from a heart attack. And what I knew about him is from the time he accumulated that money, he lived in fear of losing it.
Yep.
So he had the house and he had the vehicles and but he never got to really fully enjoy it other than moments of time.
Right.
Whenever we're doing something to fight off scarcity, somehow it's going to end up finding its way back in no matter what level but now you build a business like I'm building up funding right now because I want to launch my institute to certify other coaches in the SMT method to expand my footprint of the number of people I can help now, but even after I'm dead and gone from here, it'll continue to carry. It's like my legacy, and I have so much excitement into it and everything else and what I do and helping people break through those blocks and see them just like pole vault up in growth and stuff like that, man, it fills my heart.
Yeah, it's you got to have that kind of drive. You got to have that kind of why.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I understand really when you have that like you said, the clarity on what you're doing. I'm creating a movement. Okay, I'm behind that. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've got all the details
Mhm.
and whatever. But you're right. I also tell people too. I go, the best thing about growing up poor is I can always be poor again.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to be new territory. Okay,
Yeah.
I've been there, so I'm like, and I lost everything 0809, started over, had to build it all up again, so I take
Yeah.
that as an advantage. Okay, we have an advantage. Okay, we're not silver spoon guys, right? But I know what it's like not to have anything and build from a wheelbarrow and a shovel and build a multi-million-dollar business and then lose everything and then do it again,
Yeah.
in a different
Yeah.
avenue and everything because it's not a new place for me. We know how to operate. We're incredibly resourceful.
Yes.
That's what we are, right? And that's what we bring to
Uh,
people.
every person I've ever met who's gone through the ups and downs and things like that and everything, within my first year of walking away from corporate America, and I did really well in corporate America, revenue wise, I toppled over that in my first year of doing this. And then a couple years later, COVID hit and everything just dropped
Yep.
down. And without realizing it, I went back into that old mode where I started trying to effort and things like that. And I had two people that were on my team that left during that time because I was driving so hard and had so much different things going on, almost like I was going 10, 12, 14 hours. And then it was like, okay, once I realized what I was doing, and it took almost a year, I went and reattached with one of my coaches. We picked up where we left off. We started identifying those things. And I remember one day he told me, I love to hang glide out in Chattanooga. So he told me, he goes, you know what? He goes, what are you doing? I go, well, I'm trying to finish this thing and I'm doing this and I'm going. He goes, stop, stop. Joe, pack up your car and go to Chattanooga and go hang gliding for the week. And I go, I don't think you understand. I'm having money crunch, and I'm da, 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 da. He goes, just do it, just go. And I went out there. And during that week, I ended up 7 launches off a 2,000-foot mountaintop, and it was like incredible. Like it was the first time I had actually gone off the mountaintop off train, instead of training hills. And within that time I was out there, I got 3 different calls from people out of the blue that ended up signing up for coaching with me. But when I'm back here and I'm going nuts trying to make things happen, those things don't show up.
Right.
And here's part of the reason why. When we get going 150 miles an hour, we don't hear anything outside of ourselves and the thoughts we're having and the strategies that go with them and everything else and stuff. So we don't overhear that thing at a coffee shop or while we're at the bank or grocery store or whatever. We don't overhear those things that are helping guide us into that rapid revenue growth mode. We shut those off when we get into that. So when I can throttle back and slow down enough to hear those things, I get so many directions and guidances that ended up leading into avenues like that. If I was at home and the phone rang, I probably wouldn't even answered it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that it's self-absorption, right? Because you feel everything is on you. Like I wrote my book, Escape the Owner Prison, because if I didn't open the door, no business happened. Everything was on me. Yeah, I had people doing work and everything else, but like it was all because of me, because I sold this deal and I did this and I'm the marketing guy and I'm in front and everything else. And you start to become that. You can't, like I said, billionaire clients give me advice I can't receive.
Let me ask you something. As you were saying that, could you feel your shoulders getting heavier? I noticed you kind of went like this one time.
Yeah, it's just,
That's what happens to me too.
It's horrible, man. And all they want to do is, like you said, my joy comes from the same thing. And I had one client, he was a kitchen bathroom modeler and stuff, 8 years in business, and came in doing 2 million a year, but doing 12, 15 jobs at a time. I'm like, are you out of your mind? And he's not making any money. So I said, well, let's do 4 jobs at a time.
Yeah.
And let's charge a lot more. So he went from his average kitchen price of 41,000 to 93,000 in about 8 months. Okay. Started doing it. Then that's all good. Did 3 million instead of 2 million, doing 4 jobs at a time. The great thing was the message from his wife. We just spent 2 weeks at the beach with all 5 of our kids, and he was never on the phone. Never in my all 8 years of him in business thought that could ever happen. That's why I do it. Just like you, that freedom, people understanding that and and he did phenomenal work. I'm like, dude, you're getting ripped off by your clients. Okay. Because you're giving them everything and they're not paying you diddly. Okay. Like they need to pony up. You are serving the wrong people, my man. You are way too good at what you do to be serving this crowd. So we're gonna make that shift. And that's what gives me the joy as well.
Absolutely, man. I can feel that from you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really, really
good. And
good.
one of the things I want to offer to your audience here is like it's always about the application, right? We could talk, like you said, we could talk about things all day long, but if I don't ever take an action into it, nothing's going to be different. So one of the things I do is offer a 20-minute performance ceiling diagnostic conversation where we get in there in 20 minutes. I can help you identify whether your growth stall or your growth issue is tactical or whether it's structural. And during that time, we'll determine, help you identify why you're hitting that revenue ceiling. It's not a sales call. There's nothing about it like that. It's really a 20-minute call just to help people, business owners, to identify what's causing the stall and how do I get through it. And that's what I leave people with on that conversation. And I'm sure we'll put it in the notes, but I'll just say it right now. If anybody's interested, all you have to do is go to a little bit long, performance.smtmethod.com/reg. And I'll send that to you so we can
Yeah,
put in the
love it,
notes
love
and
it.
stuff for
Yeah,
anybody interested.
this is one of those points, and as we always begin to wrap up and stuff, and people have these, what they do. It's
Hmm.
really important for listeners to take advantage of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like just like you said, if you can diagnose, okay, if you can diagnose where you're at, now
Yes,
you have a starting point. Okay, once you
absolutely.
understand, because you're not gonna hire anybody.
Clarity.
Yeah, you're not gonna hire anybody if you don't have clarity. Like what's
Yeah,
broken.
yeah,
Just pick something. Okay. You can't do that, right? I need to know what's broken to fix it.
yes.
Okay. So it's really important to take advantage of what Joseph's offering here. Get on that call, find out what's going on, because we've said it multiple times in this already. If you're a business owner, you're the problem.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, it just, I'll be very general on that, but 99.5% of the time it's you, right?
yeah.
Because you're the one who can open the floodgates. You're the one who directs everything. So if you have limitations, so does everything below you.
Bam.
It's just so this is where you have to
Do you have a
just,
mic? Can you pick your mic up and drop it? It looks expensive, but do
yeah,
it anyways.
I'll just whack it. I'll just whack it. Well, yeah, it's a good one. But you really, it's important, and I don't bring guests on to hear myself talk.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know everything. I'm here learning as much as people listening here, right? And I love this stuff, but you have to take advantage of this stuff. If this
Yeah.
stuff resonates with you, you just take the first step, because people won't take the first step. I'll offer my book and audio for free. Just send me a one sentence email, and
Yeah.
people don't do it. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, there's people that grew up like you and I did
right.
who repeat that their whole life. And it goes generation after generation after generation. And
Yeah.
then there's certain people who say, I don't want to repeat this. And they break that chain
That's
from
it.
them down to every generation that follows.
Yeah. It's a generational curse that's breakable.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
had to change a whole lot of stuff in my life, having kids, everything else, so I wouldn't repeat it from what I went through. I
Yeah.
stopped it. I did exactly what you're talking about. I'm going to break the generational curse.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
And
doing.
I'll
So
tell you,
my
I'll tell you, this has happened for me too, is I don't chase people.
yeah,
So
me
like
either.
I talk to people, I love doing that and stuff. And if you're a business owner and you're really at that ceiling and you want to break that revenue ceiling quick and fast, then this would be a great 20 minutes. And I'm willing to put in 20 minutes of my time to have these conversations with people. And if it's not worth 20 minutes of your time, I understand that. It's not for you, and that's great. It'll be for somebody else. But if you're stuck, there's assistance available to you. And I don't even charge for this
Well, I
conversation.
think, Joseph, the important thing that people don't understand, this could be a sales element as well, but like people get it or they don't get it. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of convincing, maybe, or a little bit of educating
Yeah.
sometimes, but normally if it resonates, it's on you now. You have to say
Yes.
yes. It's like you said, I don't chase people either. It's just that
Yeah.
because it's not going to
Yeah.
be fruitful.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
always use this when I go, you got a guy who's lack of better term, he's a 400-pound land tuna, right? So he
Mhm.
not healthy. Then you got the super fit guy. All right. So the super fit guy's working out everything else, and I've got this stuff that makes you just a supplement, unbelievably healthy, and you trim down, you lean out, but it gives you energy and everything else. So I ask people, I go, who do you go to? The 400-pound guy, or you go to the super fit guy?
Right.
You go to the super fit guy,
Yeah.
because the super fit guy wants to be more fit. He wants to have more energy, right? He's your ideal client.
Yeah.
The other guy may need it, but does he want it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you got to look at it. Like you got to
Yep.
understand, who your client is, right? When
And
we're
one
talking to
last
people.
one last thing on this, which we tapped into earlier and stuff like that, is you know what my sales cycle is for my business?
I do not.
To serve in any and every avenue that appears before me. And that's what I do. And through that process, I love doing what I do. I love helping people go, oh, I get it, and have those breakthroughs and things like that. And as I do so, the right people show up for me to work with, and everything keeps growing that way too.
Do you feel like, so you have just general conversations with people? If you treat them, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but it's a discovery call. That conversation is a discovery conversation, which is what all conversations are when you meet someone. So
Yeah, I
as you're,
quit using those terminologies
I
because
get,
I
but
even quit using like I don't coach people and things like that. I'm a
right,
partner. I'm a
right.
and the way I do business when I do work with clients is I have skin in the game right along with them and stuff, and I set it up that way. So we both as growth happens, so we're both driving for the same thing, and I have skin in the game with it and stuff. But yeah, it's really about just serving. If
Yeah.
I could come up with something like that that would make sense in business, I would use it.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like you're like when I'm talking to people and they ask what you do or this, you're back and forth. It's not the elevator pitch and all that.
Yeah.
It's like you actually start. You're interested in them, and then
Yes.
they're going to talk about this. And what do you think causes that? And it's tell me more. And next thing you know, that's what I mean by discovery. You're like listening, and that's how they can become a client. And it's not your
Yeah.
intention to make them a client, but
Yeah.
you're listening for the 1 out of 10 that might have potential. Like, have you ever thought about this? No, what's that
Yeah.
about? And you tell them that that's what I do, and I do this and this and this. And
Yeah.
next, you know, that relation becomes a client.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to do it because you're not out whacking people. You're not out, with a hard charge in sales. Like the same guy said stood at my office door for an hour and a half, right? Yapping to me uncoachable, constant. Everything is sell, 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 constantly. Okay. Here,
Yeah, I don't even look at it as selling anymore and stuff, I don't run ads in anywhere and things like that. We'll put some motivational stuff on social media and stuff, but it's because I love seeing motivational stuff on social media, and I get a kick out of that myself. But what I do is my business model is I attract ideal clients.
that's it.
And that's how I continue to grow this business
That's right.
is
I love it.
attracting ideal clients.
Yeah.
And then I serve.
That's a big takeaway. Like people, you kind of wrap your head around that statement. Most people don't even know what their ICP is.
Yeah.
I ask them all the time. Well, anyone who has money. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's like,
Yeah.
And I have a full exercise to figure that. I mean, if I did it a couple of podcasts ago with a woman in cybersecurity and like, well, you could help the whole world, like literally, right? Who doesn't need that, right?
Yeah.
I said, but that's no good. We end up coaching. I'd never done it on my show. I walked her through the entire identify your ideal client profile. I like, would you be up for this? She goes, oh yeah. So we actually did like 30 minutes,
Yeah.
like driving this
Yeah.
down and all that. I've never done that kind of live, for like half the show, but it's powerful, right? Because they haven't looked at
yeah.
it.
If you ever want to do something like that, I would love, I'm just not in a position right now to do my own podcast and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
come on, brother.
and the reason being is
No, I mean,
I
come
want
on
to
my show
serve
and we'll do it.
clients. And I know that I do that. Well, if you're ever open, because one of the things I'd love to do is bring a couple people onto a show and help them identify limiting beliefs so people can get to see firsthand, oh, I get it, and get to experience that happening for them. And
Let's do
that this
that.
performance ceiling diagnostic conversation, that's what happens there. Is I
Let's
start
do
help.
that.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to. We'll have
Let's
to talk
do
about
that.
that.
Now,
Okay,
we'll talk when we get off
let's
the air.
plan it.
That would be a blast.
That would be
Okay.
awesome.
Oh man, that would be a good time. Boy, that'd be woo. I'm excited
Yeah.
now. That
And
was
we can
good.
get just a couple pieces of basic information and then go from there, start developing the vision right here. And then as we do so, start handling those limitations that are coming up.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
All
Joseph,
right.
one more time with the website.
Yes. performance.smtmethod.com/reg for register.
Perfect. Perfect. And I'll be in the show notes.
And I'll send that to you so you can put
Thank
that
you.
in the show notes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What a conversation.
Oh, this was awesome, Richard. I so much appreciate getting to have this with you.
Yeah, man. I knew it would be good, man. We're and as we always tell, but there's no prep in the sharpen the spear. We just get out and do this stuff, man, because we bring on professionals. We bring on the best. So it's good. So we can just roll with this stuff. But this was a ton of fun. And I just appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. You're doing incredible things out there. Keep doing them. We're going to arrange this whole live training. That's going to be, I can't wait. I'm super excited for that. That's it. You're going to get pulled up on the schedule. Okay, because we're out for months, so we're not going. I'm not going to wait.
Do so gladly.
So you can come on again. Yeah, I'll bring you on, man. Well, special accommodations for Dr. Joseph. That's what we're going to do. You heard it here live. Now I got to do it for sure. So it's good.
Love it.
Well, Joseph, thank you so much for all your time and everything that you're doing and bringing to the world. I appreciate it so much. And for everybody else We'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.